The most violent act you commit daily isn't against others. It's against yourself. Each compromise of your standards, each surrender to fear, each delay of your dreams is self-inflicted harm. You're not just underachieving, you're committing soul suicide in slow motion. The comfortable life you cling to isn't a sanctuary, it's a maximum security prison built by your own excuses, or policed by your own fears, and maintained by your own compliance. Your potential doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't recognize your excuses. It stands witness to your daily choice between growth and safety, between purpose and distraction, between impact and insignificance. What terrifies most people isn't that they lack capacity for greatness, it's that they possess it but choose not to access it. They sense the dangerous power within them but keep it caged, fearing not their weakness but their tremendous strength unleashed. Have you ever been punched in the gut by life so hard that you couldn't breathe? That moment when everything you believed about yourself crumbled, and you wondered if you'd ever stand tall again. I remember sitting in absolute darkness, tears streaming down my face, asking myself, is this it? Is this all I'm capable of? My dreams seemed to mock me from a distance. My potential felt like a cruel joke someone had played on me. The gap between who I was and who I knew I could be was an ocean I couldn't cross. That moment of desperation taught me something profound about human nature. We don't change when we're comfortable. We don't transform when life is easy. We only truly evolve when staying the same becomes more painful than the discomfort of growth. Today, I want to talk to you about becoming so dangerous that no one, not even your own doubts, dares to stop you. And by dangerous, I don't mean threatening or harmful. I mean becoming so aligned with your purpose, so clear about your value, and so committed to your vision that you become an unstoppable force of nature. The world doesn't reward ordinary. The marketplace doesn't celebrate average. Life itself doesn't honor those who play small. Everything in nature fights for space. Trees stretch their branches toward the sun. Rivers carve their paths through mountains. And animals claim their territory with fierce determination. You were not born to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were designed to be dangerous. But what does that really mean? Being dangerous means you've discovered something so valuable within yourself that you refuse to keep it buried. It means you've connected with your authentic purpose so deeply that walking away from it would feel like betraying yourself. It means you've recognized that your existence is not accidental but intentional. Look at your hands for a moment. These hands are not just appendages with fingers and thumbs. They are tools of creation, instruments of service, or weapons of love. Everything you will ever build, everyone you will ever touch, every problem you will ever solve, it all begins with these hands. But more importantly, it begins with the mind that directs them and the spirit that empowers them. The tragedy I see every day is people who have domesticated themselves into harmlessness. They've traded their roar for a whisper. They've exchanged their power for approval. They've surrendered their greatness for comfort. And the world is poorer for it. What would happen if you decided right now that you would no longer negotiate with the fear that has kept you small? What would your life look like if you committed to becoming so good at what you do that your influence couldn't be denied? Success is not a mystery. Greatness is not a lottery ticket. Excellence is not reserved for a special few. These are the natural outcomes of deliberate choices made consistently over time. Let me ask you something. What have you been putting off because you're afraid you might fail? What conversation have you been avoiding because it might be uncomfortable? What dream have you been downplaying because it seems too ambitious? Your answers reveal where you've allowed yourself to be tamed. They show where you've permitted mediocrity to make a home in your life. But here's what I know about you. You have an extraordinary capacity for growth. You possess untapped reservoirs of creativity. You harbor within yourself solutions to problems that plague our world. The marketplace is desperately looking for people who have developed themselves beyond the ordinary. Society rewards those who bring exceptional value. The economy bows to those who solve significant problems. Think about the pioneers who transformed our world. They weren't necessarily the smartest people in the room. They weren't always the most talented. They certainly weren't the most privileged. But they were the most dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to impossibility. They understood a fundamental truth. Your value in the marketplace is directly proportional to the difficulty of the problems you can solve. If you can solve easy problems, you'll earn easy money. If you can solve difficult problems, you'll command premium compensation. If you can solve seemingly impossible problems, you'll never worry about income again. But becoming dangerous requires something from you. It demands that you kill the amateur within. The amateur works when they feel like it. The professional shows up regardless of feelings. The amateur wants instant results. The professional embraces the process. The amateur quits when things get hard. The professional recognizes that difficulty is where growth happens. I want to tell you about someone I met. This individual grew up in circumstances that would break most people. Poverty was their first teacher. Rejection was their consistent companion. Failure seemed to follow them like a shadow. But they made a decision that changed everything. They decided that their circumstances would no longer define their destiny. They committed to developing themselves daily. They invested in their mind when they could barely afford food. They practiced their craft when others were sleeping. They studied masters in their field when friends were partying. Today, that person influences millions. Their ideas have transformed organizations. Their wisdom has restored broken families. Their courage has inspired countless others to pursue their own greatness. What was their secret? They understood that true power comes from self-mastery. They realized that the most important competition is with the person you were yesterday. They discovered that greatness is not a destination but a habit. You see, becoming dangerous isn't about dominating others. It's about dominating yourself. It's about bringing your thoughts, emotions, and actions into such alignment that you become a weapon of mass construction in a world filled with destruction. When you enter a room, people should feel your presence before you speak. Not because you're loud or imposing, but because there's a quiet confidence that accompanies those who know their worth. When you speak, your words should carry weight not because you talk a lot, but because you've earned the right to be heard through the results you've produced. I'm challenging you today to examine your life with brutal honesty. Where have you been settling for less than you're capable of? Where have you been making excuses instead of making progress? Where have you been blaming others instead of taking responsibility? The answers will be uncomfortable. Growth always is. But discomfort is the price of admission to a life of significance. Let me be clear, becoming dangerous doesn't happen overnight. It's not about motivation. Motivation is emotional. And emotions are unreliable. This is about commitment, a decision so deeply rooted in your being that going back is no longer an option. Think of commitment like burning ships. When ancient conquerors arrived on foreign shores, they would sometimes burn their ships. Why? Because it eliminated the option of retreat. It created a psychological state where victory was the only acceptable outcome. There was no plan B. What ships do you need to burn in your life? What escape routes have you been keeping open just in case things get tough? What backup plans have been secretly sabotaging your full commitment to excellence? You cannot become dangerous if you're constantly planning your retreat. You cannot intimidate mediocrity if you're cuddling with comfort. You cannot command respect if you're cowering in fear. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions. And the most important decision you'll ever make is who you choose to become. Not what career you'll pursue. Not what partner you'll marry. Not what house you'll buy. But who at your core you will develop yourself to be. I want you to imagine for a moment what your life would look like 1 year from now if you committed to becoming the most valuable person you could possibly be in your field. What would change if you decided to read 1 book per week in your area of expertise? What would happen if you sought out mentors who have already achieved what you're pursuing? What would transform if you practiced deliberate improvement every single day? The results would be staggering. The person you would become would make your current self unrecognizable. The opportunities that would open to you would seem like miracles. The impact you would have would extend far beyond your immediate circle. But here's the catch: it all begins with a decision. Not a wish, not a hope, not even a goal, a fundamental, irreversible decision that enough is enough. That mediocrity will no longer be tolerated in your life. That excellence is now your standard. Have you made that decision? If not, what are you waiting for? Your environment isn't just your physical location, it's the books you read, the conversations you have, the music you listen to, the content you consume. And most importantly, the people you spend time with. Each of these elements is either feeding your greatness or fueling your limitations. Ask yourself, are the 5 people closest to you elevating your standards or lowering them? Are they pulling you toward excellence or pushing you toward complacency? Do they celebrate when you stretch yourself? Or do they subtly discourage you from outgrowing them? These are uncomfortable questions. But comfort has never been the catalyst for transformation. Sometimes becoming dangerous means making dangerous decisions, like outgrowing relationships that no longer serve your higher self. I once spoke with a young entrepreneur who was struggling to build his business. His ideas were sound. His work ethic was impressive. His intentions were pure. But every time he gained momentum, something would happen to derail his progress. After several conversations, the pattern became clear. His closest friends, while well-meaning, who were unconsciously sabotaging his success, they would invite him out when he needed to work. They would plant seeds of doubt about his vision. They would make subtle comments that reinforced a scarcity mindset. He wasn't failing because of his capabilities. He was failing because of his associations. The hard truth is that some people in your life may love you, but they don't love your growth. They're comfortable with who you are, not who you're becoming. And when you start to change, when you begin to demand more from yourself, when you raise your standards, when you pursue ambitious goals, it disrupts their comfort. Your growth is a mirror that reflects their stagnation. Your courage highlights their fear. Your discipline exposes their excuses. This doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. But you must decide whether their comfort is worth sacrificing your potential. Becoming dangerous means creating boundaries that protect your destiny. It means saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. It means disappointing some people temporarily so you can serve many people permanently. But your environment isn't just about other people. It's also about the information you allow into your mind. We live in an age of unprecedented access to information. With a few clicks, you can learn virtually anything. But this blessing can become a curse if not managed wisely. Most people consume information that reinforces what they already believe. They seek content that validates their current reality rather than challenges them to create a new one. They fill their minds with negativity, triviality, and mediocrity. Then wonder why they can't produce positivity, significance, and excellence. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant will eventually grow. Plant seeds of doubt, and you'll harvest insecurity. Plant seeds of excuses, and you'll harvest limitations. Plant seeds of victim mentality, and you'll harvest powerlessness. But plant seeds of faith, and you'll harvest confidence. Plant seeds of responsibility, and you'll harvest sovereignty. Plant seeds of purpose, and you'll harvest fulfillment. Dangerous people are intentional about their mental diet. They understand that consumption precedes production. They know that what goes in must come out, often multiplied. So I ask you, what are you feeding your mind? What information are you consuming daily? Is it making you more dangerous or more domesticated? Is it expanding your vision or restricting it? Is it empowering you to act or encouraging you to spectate? Now, let's talk about something that few people understand, but every dangerous person masters: the relationship between pain and growth. We've been conditioned to believe that pain is bad, something to be avoided at all costs. We've developed sophisticated systems for numbing our discomfort, distracting ourselves from challenges, and escaping the very experiences that could transform us. But what if pain isn't your enemy? What if discomfort isn't a warning sign but a welcome mat? What if resistance isn't an obstacle but an opportunity? Every meaningful growth in nature comes through pressure. Diamonds form under intense heat and pressure. Muscles develop by being stressed and torn. Seeds crack open in the dark, damp soil before they can reach toward the light. Why would human development be any different? The truth that most people don't want to hear is that your capacity for achievement is directly proportional to your capacity for discomfort. The more pain you can endure in pursuit of your goals, the more likely you are to achieve them. I'm not talking about needless suffering or martyrdom. I'm talking about purposeful discomfort, the kind that comes from pushing beyond your limits, challenging your assumptions, and confronting your fears. Dangerous people don't avoid pain. They redefine their relationship with it. They see it as feedback, not failure. They treat it as a teacher, not a tormentor. They recognize it as the price of progress, not punishment for ambition. Think about the moments in your life when you've grown the most. Were they comfortable? Were they easy? Did they feel good while you were experiencing them? Probably not, but looking back, you wouldn't trade those painful experiences for anything because of who they helped you become. That promotion you didn't get taught you resilience. That relationship that ended forced you to discover your self-worth. That business that failed showed you what not to do next time. That health crisis awakened you to the preciousness of life. That financial setback taught you the difference between wants and needs. The pain, when properly processed, is not your enemy. It's your ally in becoming dangerous. It strips away pretense and reveals your true character. It burns away the non-essential and leaves behind what's truly important. It transforms theoretical knowledge into experiential wisdom. But here's the key. You must choose your pain. If you don't choose the pain of discipline, you'll eventually experience the pain of regret. If you don't embrace the pain of growth, you'll ultimately endure the pain of stagnation. If you don't accept the pain of truth, you'll inevitably suffer the pain of delusion. Dangerous people choose their pain proactively rather than experiencing it reactively. They don't wait for life to force growth upon them. They seek it out voluntarily. They understand that the path to their best self runs directly through their deepest discomfort. What discomfort have you been avoiding that's keeping you from becoming dangerous? What conversation have you been postponing because it might be painful? What skill have you neglected developing because the learning curve seems too steep? What truth have you been denying because accepting it would require change? Your answers reveal your ceiling. They expose the upper limit of your current potential. They show exactly where you need to grow if you want to become truly dangerous. Now, let's talk about something that separates the merely successful from the truly dangerous, their relationship with failure. Most people see failure as the opposite of success. Dangerous people see it as a component of success. Most people try to avoid failure at all costs. Dangerous people understand that the cost of avoiding failure is never becoming exceptional. The world's most impactful innovations, most profitable businesses, and most transformative ideas emerge from repeated failure. The light bulb came after thousands of unsuccessful attempts. The world's most successful businesses often evolve from initial concepts that didn't work. The most profound insights typically follow periods of confusion and mistake. Failure isn't just a stepping stone to success, it's the very forge in which success is created. It's the necessary feedback that refines your approach. It's the essential teacher that reveals what you didn't know. What would change in your life if you saw failure not as something to avoid, but as something to extract value from? What if you measured success not by how few failures you experience, but by how quickly you learn from each one? Dangerous people fail more often than average people. But they fail differently. They fail forward. They fail fast. They fail intelligently. Each failure makes them more dangerous, not less, because they mine it for insights that others miss. When average people fail, they internalize it. I am a failure, they say. When dangerous people fail, they externalize it. That approach failed, they say, and then they try something else. Average people hide their failures, embarrassed by the very experiences that could transform them. Dangerous people analyze their failures openly, knowing that the lessons contained within them are too valuable to waste. Success requires a certain tolerance for failure, not a passive acceptance, but an active engagement with it. This doesn't mean you aim to fail. It means you refuse to be defined by failure. It means you recognize that failure is an event, not an identity. The question isn't whether you'll fail, it's what you'll do when you fail. Will you retreat into safety? Or will you extract the lesson and try again with greater wisdom? Will you see it as proof that you should play smaller? Or will you use it as feedback to play smarter? Dangerous people don't just persist through failure, they leverage it. They don't just bounce back, they bounce forward. They transform their failures into competitive advantages by learning what their competitors haven't yet discovered. I want to tell you about a student I once taught. This young person came to me completely defeated. They had failed an important exam despite studying harder than ever before. Their confidence was shattered. Their motivation was gone. Their faith in their abilities had disappeared. When we analyzed what happened, we discovered something fascinating. They hadn't failed because they didn't study hard enough. They failed because they were studying ineffectively. They were working from outdated materials. They were focusing on memorization when the exam tested application. They were studying alone when collaborative learning would have served them better. The problem wasn't effort, it was strategy. And once they understood that, everything changed. They didn't just retake the exam, they redesigned their entire approach to learning. They didn't just pass the next time, they excelled. And more importantly, they developed a relationship with failure that transformed them from a good student into an exceptional learner. That's what becoming dangerous looks like. It's not about never failing, it's about never failing the same way twice. It's about extracting so much value from each failure that success becomes inevitable. What's your relationship with failure? Do you avoid situations where you might fail? Do you take failure as evidence of your limitations? Or do you see it as an invitation to innovation? Do you hide your failures from others? Or do you analyze them openly to accelerate your growth? Your answers reveal whether you're on the path to becoming dangerous or whether you're training yourself to remain safe and small. But becoming dangerous isn't just about how you respond to failure. It's also about how you approach opportunity. Average people wait for opportunities to come to them. Dangerous people create opportunities through preparation and initiative. There's a myth in our culture that success comes from being in the right place at the right time that is largely a matter of luck. While timing certainly plays a role. What looks like luck to the untrained eye is usually preparation meeting opportunity. Dangerous people prepare relentlessly for opportunities that don't yet exist. They develop skills that aren't yet in demand. They solve problems that others haven't yet recognized. They build capabilities that will be valuable in a future they can envision but others can't yet see. When you become truly prepared, opportunities find you. The world makes way for the person who knows exactly where they're going. Doors open for those who knock with the confidence of preparation behind them. I've watched countless people wait for their big break while doing nothing to deserve it. They wanted the promotion without developing the skills. They wanted the business without building the systems. They wanted the platform without crafting the message. They wanted the reward without embracing the struggle. Dangerous people operate differently. They don't wait for opportunity, they create a reputation so compelling that opportunity hunts them down. They become so valuable that the marketplace can't ignore them. They solve problems so effectively that people can't help but notice. This preparation isn't passive, it's active and strategic. It means developing skills that solve significant problems. It means building a network before you need it. It means saving resources so you can seize opportunities when they arise. It means living below your means so you can invest in your future. Most importantly, it means doing extraordinary work even when no one is watching. The quality of your work when no one is looking determines the opportunities you'll receive when everyone is looking. Excellence isn't something you turn on for important occasions. It's a habit that permeates everything you do. Dangerous people understand this. They don't compartmentalize excellence. They standardize it. They don't reserve their best for special moments. They make their best their baseline. Every small task becomes a referendum on who they are and what they stand for. Every interaction becomes a chance to demonstrate their values. Every mundane responsibility becomes an opportunity to practice excellence. When you approach life this way, something magical happens. You stop needing to convince people of your value because your work speaks for you. You no longer have to promote yourself because others do it for you. You don't have to demand opportunities because your preparation makes you the obvious choice. This is what it means to be dangerous, to be so prepared. So excellent. So valuable that overlooking you becomes the risky choice. To be so aligned with your purpose and so committed to your craft that betting against you seems foolish. The world is desperately looking for people like this. Organizations are searching for individuals who bring solutions rather than complaints. Communities need leaders who take responsibility rather than assign blame. Families hunger for members who contribute rather than merely consume. Your greatest power lies in your capacity to transform yourself. While you cannot control external circumstances, you have absolute authority over your internal responses. This sovereignty over self is what makes you truly dangerous. Consider how most people operate, reacting to life rather than creating it. They respond to emergencies instead of executing plans. They address symptoms instead of solving root causes. They accept what happens to them instead of determining what happens to them. Dangerous people flip the script. They understand that while they cannot control the cards they're dealt, they can master how they play their hand. They recognize that freedom comes not from having no limitations, but from working skillfully within them. This internal power manifests as self-discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel in the moment. It's the capacity to choose the painful right over the pleasant wrong. It's the strength to say yes to growth and no to comfort. Self-discipline isn't about punishment, it's about liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of impulse and delivers you into the kingdom of purpose. It transforms you from a leaf blown by circumstance into a tree rooted in principle. The most dangerous people I've ever met weren't dangerous because of what they could do to others, but because of what they had done to themselves. They had conquered their fears, mastered their emotions, and aligned their actions with their highest values. When you achieve this level of self-mastery, you become dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to excuses, dangerous to complacency both in yourself and in others. Your very existence becomes a challenge to those who settle for less than they're capable of becoming. Your life stops being about acquiring things and starts being about becoming someone. You realize that the greatest gift you can offer the world isn't what you have, but who you are. Your presence becomes a permission slip for others to pursue their own greatness. This is the ultimate meaning of becoming dangerous, not that others fear you, but that they see in you what's possible for themselves. Not that you intimidate them with your power, but that you inspire them with your example. Your journey to becoming dangerous isn't a straight line. It's a spiral of continuous growth. Each cycle takes you higher, but revisits familiar territories of challenge and breakthrough. This pattern, the hero's journey, is encoded in our DNA, etched into our collective consciousness. The obstacles you face aren't punishments, they're invitations to evolve. Each resistance you encounter isn't a roadblock, but a strength training station designed specifically for your development. The universe doesn't conspire against you, it conspires for your growth. Many seek the crown without the crucible, the victory without the battle, the transformation without the fire. But dangerous people understand that greatness requires payment in advance, and that currency is discomfort. They don't just accept this truth, they embrace it. When you reframe your struggles this way, everything changes. The rejection that once devastated you becomes the redirection you needed. The failure that once defined you becomes the feedback that refined you. The pain that once diminished you becomes the pressure that distinguished you. This perspective shift is what separates the dangerous from the desperate. The desperate ask, why is this happening to me? The dangerous ask, what is this developing in me? The desperate seek escape from challenges. The dangerous extract wisdom from them. Your past struggles weren't wasted, they were investments in your capacity. Every heartbreak expanded your empathy. Every setback strengthened your resilience. Every disappointment deepened your determination. You've been in training for this moment your entire life. Now it's time to step fully into your power, not with arrogance, but with a humble confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. It's time to become so aligned with your purpose that no obstacle can permanently deter you. So committed to your vision that no rejection can diminish you. So clear about your value that no criticism can define you. This is what it means to become truly dangerous, to be so anchored in your worth that you no longer seek external validation. So devoted to your craft that you no longer fear competition. So connected to your purpose that you no longer question your path. The world doesn't change when comfortable people remain comfortable. Transformation happens when ordinary people make the extraordinary decision to become dangerous to the status quo, starting with their own.